Going to be going over with you all how to design a wheel hub for this particular compact disc that's right here. This is an old, probably almost 20-year-old piece of software that is completely 100% obsolete. I found it on the floor in my basement, and so what we're going to do is we're going to use this for our gravity car. So you got your calipers, you've got your CD. What we need to do is we need to adapt this hole that's right here in the middle so that it can adapt to a 1/4-inch piece of dowel rod. For me, I am just going to go ahead and design this thing so that it has a small opening in the middle of it that can adapt to a 1/4-inch shaft. My final design is going to be a little bit different because I am going through a process in my design that will hopefully give me a little bit faster rotation. So my final design will be a little bit different, but I'm going to show you guys the basics of how to design this simple hub for the middle of this disc. So first and foremost, what you guys need to do, you need to grab yourself some calipers. You need to go ahead and take them, and if you can see right here, what I'm doing is I am just measuring the inside diameter of that hole right there, and it comes out to 15.04 millimeters, which is pretty spot on from the research that I did online. That center opening should be 15 millimeters. Adding that extra 100th of a millimeter is not going to affect your tolerance too much. So we know that we need to design something that's going to fit that 15 millimeter opening. The thickness of the CD is 1.15 millimeters, and that is important because we want to know how deep to actually make the little flange that we're going to be creating that's going to fit inside of here, because we want to make a pretty good snug fit. So I've got my measurements, 1.15 and 15 millimeter opening here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jot those down. So 1.15 thick and 15 millimeter diameter. So let's go into CAD. So here is Fusion 360. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a circular sketch. So you guys have used Fusion, maybe not. You should have an account already set up. What we're going to do is inside of the software, everything is going to be built up off of a sketch. So we're going to go and create a new sketch right here. New sketch. And we are going to select a sketch plane to work on. I am going to work from the top view. It's going to automatically go to my top orthographic. And I'm going to tell it that I want to start with a circle. And so when I click on the middle, just single click and then move the mouse. You can see how you can change the size of that circle. I am going to make this 14.5. And the reason that I'm making it 14.5, I'm actually going to change that to about 14.7. Just so that I have a little bit of tolerance inside of the flange that is going to sit inside of that CD. And so this is millimeters here. Now I need to make another circle. 1/4 of an inch is 0.25 inches. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to say this circle right here needs to be 0.255 IN. And that gives me in inches. The IN automatically converts it to inches. When we hit this, it makes it 6.477 millimeters in diameter. And so this is the hole right here that the dowel rod will go through. I need one more circle that is going to be the outer part of our design. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a slightly larger circle that is going to give me about 30, let's see, we're going to go 35 millimeters, and we're going to say okay, and we can change this in just a minute if necessary. I'm going to take one more circle, and notice if I hover over my center point here and go up, it gives me a set point here. And so I am going to put a 3 millimeter hole here. Now when I throw that in there, I can see that I've got a little bit more space than I need right here. So I'm going to hit M on the keyboard. I'm going to grab this circle and I'm going to scoot it down this way just a tad bit and say okay. And now instead of this being 35, we can just click on this measurement, and if we say 30, it's going to bring that circle in a little bit tighter, and it gives me pretty good boundaries on either side of this. So this is a bolt hole right here that is going to mount the flange, the adapter that I'm building, onto the CD, because I don't want it to just stick in there. I want it to be able to grab onto the CD, and I want it to use it as a wheel. So now I'm going to create a pattern of this so that I can have 3 of them. So I'm going to go to Create, Circular Pattern, select this circle. The center point that I'm going to rotate it around is going to be right here. And there are 3 of them now. You can change the quantity if you wanted to go 4, 5, 6. Just remember you're adding mass to it. 3 will be good. That will give me pretty even rotational mass on this particular wheel. And we say OK. So now it's time to actually start creating our design. So I'm orbiting around in 3 dimensions. You can see that my view cube right here has gone away from that top view. And I'm going to finish my sketch. So now we're going to start extruding. To extrude, we grab this tool right here. This is extrude. If you click on create, there's a lot more tools that are down here. But we're just going to stick with extrude. And I'm going to start with this center circle here. And I'm going to take this 1.15 and say OK. Now my sketch disappeared. And that's not a big problem because we just come over here to our browser, turn the sketch back on with the little eyeball, and there it is. So now I can grab this part here, and I actually want to come around and grab this part down here as well. So I'm going to extrude again, but this time I'm going to be on the bottom, and I'm going to grab these bits. You can move around by clicking and dragging on the view cube. You can also hold shift and click on middle mouse, and that will orbit you. Just middle mouse by itself will pan you. But I now want to drag this down. And I'm going to drag this down probably about -3. And so there it is. That is the hub for this particular wheel completely done. Now it's only 4 millimeters of contact with the actual dowel rod here. So that may or may not be enough. Depending on how you are designing your wheels, you might need to do something a little bit different here, but I am going to just give myself a little bit more stability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another circular sketch, and I'm going to sketch right here on top of this, and I'm going to make this just a little bit wider than this circle here and a little bit narrower than this one here. I'm not super concerned with the dimensioning of this. And so now I'm going to extrude this one, and I'm going to extrude this one up 5 more millimeters and say OK. And so this is the adapter that will bolt on to our CD. So it will fit right through here. I will use it as a drilling template to actually drill the holes through, and I'll use M3 bolts and a couple of M3 nuts to hold everything in place. I might not even need M3 nuts because I might just be able to thread directly into the plastic. We'll see. Usually 3 millimeter holes and M3 bolts thread together just fine. And since this is not something that's going to be under any kind of major load, just threading it into the plastic should be just fine for you guys. So hopefully this helped you out. When you're ready to start printing these out, we only need to export one of them from Fusion, and I will show you guys how to do that in class, and then we can go ahead and get 3D printing. So guys, hopefully this was beneficial. And if not, ask me questions in class. Thank you.